I know I have an empty glass. I know that for sure.
It's not 5 o'clock, and they don't care. Welcome to Wine to 5. Entertainment, education, and everyday drinking for everyday people. Your hosts are Valerie Caruso and Stephanie Davis, two wine educators who don't need a clock to know when to pour that next glass.
Welcome back to your favorite wine edutainment podcast. This is episode 199.
And in this episode, we are grape gabbing about Pinotage, so stay to the end because we're going to do our monthly drawing. What's in the glasses this week, Steph?
Ooh, I have something good. But, I think it's kind of funny that we're on the same page again. Whiskey. We were both thinking the same thing. I have got the Irish Maid cocktail, and it is a whiskey cocktail made with Lustau Redbreast Irish whiskey. And oddly enough, it has cucumber in it and elderflower. And I don't know if I would have ever put that combo together, but one of the bartenders at the whiskey bar in Fort Collins, I guess, created this. And my friend Dustin gave me he wrote down the recipe for me. So this is my second time making it. It is so good. It's got simple syrup, lemon juice, 2 muddled cucumber slices, and then 1 extra slice for the garnish. And I love this drink. I mean, I know the Lustau Redbreast is also so good all by itself that you're like, why would you even bother making a cocktail with it? But good whiskey makes good cocktails.
Good whiskey does make good cocktails. I'm on my second bottle of that Redbreast Irish whiskey. And yes, we are on the same page. Unfortunately, it's not the Pinotage page because that's what we're talking about today. But we're on the same whiskey page. Steph's got the E. I have the no E because I've got Scotch. And Scotch whiskey doesn't have the E. This is the Glenfarclas 17-year single malt from Speyside, Scotland. And it was my birthday booze.
Oh, that's so nice.
I know. I have the best husband ever, and it is served neat. That's what we're drinking today, but what we're talking about is the Pinotage Grape. And you're like, all right, that's pretty much situation normal. We are not drinking what we're talking about. But we thought it would be cool to discuss this grape because it's kind of a unique one, but it's one that's kind of gaining popularity around the world. And there are a lot of, I want to say, mixed feelings.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Mixed feelings about the grape, but we just kind of want to lay it all out for you. So let's go ahead and get started. So, Steph, what is a Pinotage and what should we know about it?
Well, it's a cross between 2 different grapes. 2 different Vinous vinifera grapes, Cinsault and Pinot Noir, but Cinsault used to be called Hermitage, so that's where you kind of get this Pinotage, and it produces dark, full-bodied red wines because it is a red grape, although you will see rosés and you will see even sparkling red and sparkling white. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later. But what are their other names, synonyms, or aliases, Val?
Well, we always like to talk about AKA or as known as, but the only thing we could find close to a synonym, have some more whiskey, Val. We've been pre-gaming for a while here. But the only thing close to a synonym is Perrault's Hermitage times Pinot or cross Pinot. And that is because it's named after the person who crossed the Hermitage or the Cinsault and the Pinot. So that's an original name. But you will see a Cape blend, and that will usually denote a Pinotage red blend. But then here comes but occasionally a Cape blend kind of thing where that refers to a Chenin-based blend. But we dug up this one too. Steph, Hermanoir, the almost name of Pinotage.
I know. I was like, I'm going to find something else that's an alias or a synonym, but you'll see later when it comes up. So where is Pinotage from? Well, if you've never heard about it before, you might be surprised. It's from South Africa, and that's primarily where you'll find it also. I mean, we do kind of go over a little bit like other places in the world are growing it, but it's pretty much a South African thing.
And it's not very old either, nor is the wine industry. It's kind of one of those regions, South Africa, if you will, that kind of struggles between, it's considered a New World wine region because it is south of the equator and all those wine regions are considered New World, but their wine industry does go back to the 15th or 16th century. So this grape is also not very old. It's only been around about 93 years, and it was bred by Abraham Isaac Perold in 1925. And apparently he'd forgotten all about the little seedlings that he created, and he took off a couple years later, like after he created this cross. But then Charlie Niehaus found them, and it was here that the little seedlings in South Africa were grafted onto rootstocks and given the name Pinotage, and that was at the Welgevallen vineyard. The best specimen of these seedlings, the best one, was selected for breeding. And so it was first planted for commercial use in 1943 and first bottled and used on a wine label in 1959 at Lanzerac. And I believe it was first offered up in 1961. And we were actually there, Steph. I don't know if you went there when you went to South Africa, but they were very proud of that. Was the first place that people got to actually taste the Pinotage.
That's so cool. Did you find some photos of that?
I did. I've got some of the estate.
Oh,
and
nice.
we had a braai or a barbecue, and we got to sample some of the Pinotage that they had there at Lanzerac Estate. And we actually stayed there, and it's a really, really stunning estate. So I can put some pictures in the blog of that.
What did you think of their Pinotage?
I remember loving everything that was poured to me that night, but I think after a day of wine touring and tasting, we were happy to have some beer.
Oh, hilarious.
Which is normally the case. So I remember sitting there drinking beer because I'm like, if I have to taste one more wine today.
Right.
And that's part of the wine thing, So it's like, oh, we've been tasting all day.
You're like your teeth and your palate were like, beer, please.
I've not had too many Pinotages I don't like. I know a lot of people give them this funky name or this funky reputation, but I've pretty much liked all the ones I've tasted. I've from Ken Forrester or from Ken Cop because we went there too, and I liked them. I never had one in my glass and I went, ugh, no, thank you. Doesn't mean it's not out there.
Ken Cop has a lot to be proud of because they have some international acclaim with their Pinotage. In 1991, they were awarded at the International Wine and Spirits Competition in London the Robert Mondavi Trophy as the best red wine. And so, that's says a lot, I think, for people who are still thinking, oh, I've heard that Pinotage smells and tastes funky, or I've had one Pinotage and never to have it again. Well, there really are some great examples at different price points that are nice, really nice, big, bold wines, So, and the other thing I thought I would just mention in this one little segment too is that to also help get your head wrapped around it. Now, you're in the Southern Hemisphere when you're in South Africa. This particular grape, it ripens later than Pinot Noir, even though that's part of the cross, and then it ripens earlier than Cabernet Sauvignon. So that's right around mid-February. So for those people listening on the Northern Hemisphere, they're like, oh yeah, that's right. So it's, you got to kind of wrap your head around some of this. But the other places besides South Africa and that are in the Northern Hemisphere is the USA, California especially, Oregon, and a lot in Virginia are growing Pinotage. And then to a lesser extent, Michigan, Arizona, Texas, and even Maryland, I was surprised to see, is growing some Pinotage.
Like we talked about earlier, some people love it and some people hate it. I call it the cilantro of the wine grape world.
Right.
I know that's more of a genetic thing. Haha, I got it. But some people do scrunch their faces at it. And I've heard the word South African funk, and not meant to disparage South African wines because I adore them. But I've heard that name used in a tasting before, and trying to figure out what is it about this particular grape that causes so much controversy, if I were Trevor Noah, who's from South Africa, incidentally, and love him. But why do they scrunch their faces at it, Steph? Why do you think that is?
Well, some people say that it's kind of like this burnt rubber aroma or a weird paint like wet
yeah.
paint kind of a smell. And then others, say maybe Band-Aid or kind of a saddle leather, but those could be from the Brettanomyces and not necessarily from the grape itself. But I think most often it's kind of a rubbery or wet paint kind of a smell. But, ultimately, that's not what the winemakers are going for, obviously. They're really trying to accentuate the beautiful fruit characteristics that come with the Pinotage grape.
I've also heard people describe Pinotage as having like a roasted meat aroma. And so one of the things that I was reading before I went there had to do with the ancient soil compositions. And actually some of the winemakers have come here and said that. Just like, if you've got this decomposed granite or kaolin clay that can attribute to some of these aromas. Now, we're not saying you can smell the dirt in the wine. We're never going to say that. That's like that whole minerality. Oh, you can taste the minerals. We're never going to say that on this show. But some believe that the ancient soil compositions can contribute to the complex interaction between all those elements of terroir that we're talking about. Winemaking, geology and soils, and the chemical compounds, acidity or the alkaline in the soil, climate aspect. All these other elements can contribute to a very unique quality in that wine. But to us, this sounds like a great pairing for a South African braai, which is a barbecue in our world. And we've actually had a winemaker tell us to just chill that wine a little bit and then serve it with some barbecue and roasted meat. And it is, I've done a South African wine dinner where we featured Pinotage, and this was something we all agreed on. It wants food.
Well, and I have never had a Pinotage outside of South Africa. So I think it would be really neat because you were talking about terroir and some of these other elements that, soil and things that affect the wine. If you had it all lined up,
right.
A South African, a couple of different South African Pinotages, maybe from some different producers, different areas. And then, one from Oregon, Virginia, one from Israel, you have it lined up. And then what is the terroir telling you? That would be kind of cool.
That would be cool as well. And then in my mind, I'm just defaulting, having met with a bunch of winemakers while I was out in Santa Rosa the week before this was recorded, just tasting all the various Pinots and Chardonnays around the Russian River Valley and the difference that the clone and the location and the winemaking can add to a wine. It's so subjective. And that's why the one thing we don't want to do on the show is ever just say, it all tastes like this.
Yeah.
Because there are so many different styles. And Steph, like you mentioned in the notes here, that when done right.
Yeah. Well, and when done right, I mean, there could be, it could be expressive of, like you said, a meaty flavor or some kind of bacony flavor, something like that. But typical, it has more of like black fruits, blackberries, black cherries, and then maybe some spices, clove or a smokiness or a chocolatey note. So there's lots of different things that you can experience in a glass of Pinotage. And what's nice also is that with balanced acidity, kind of medium-high acidity, medium-high tannin, medium alcohol. I mean, it could be just gorgeous.
Yes, and you've got nice spice-rubbed ribs. And a Pinotage, to me, that's going to church.
Totally. And, we're both such food lovers. And even though we don't preach about wine pairings, there's lots of different things. Like we mentioned barbecue or even gamier kind of meats, venison, things like that. And then just some stronger cheeses, that if it's a good wine, it goes with good food there. I'm like done.
Yeah. A good sauce and a good rub can also play into those components, textures, and flavors when you're playing with wine and food pairings. And remember, just because you like it, the person next to you may not, and that is totally fine.
That's right. That's right. But, so what's kind of cool when you start looking at Pinotages on the retail prices, they could be something even like a $6 bottle of a Pinotage Rosé. Simple but enjoyable, all the way up to these luxurious bottles that are $275 a bottle of this, ambitious red wine that, is meant for aging, So there's a whole spectrum, including some sparkling, which I have never had, but I thought it was fun in my research to find a semi-dry red sparkling from the Western Cape of South Africa that they call Hermanoir. which is their little,
cool.
that's where that came up from that. So it's RCL Sparkling Hermanoir. And then out of Los Gatos, California, they have a Blanc de Noir. So a white sparkling from Pinotage. And that is at the Loma Prieta.
Okay.
So that was kind of neat, too, just to see that there is, some different cool stuff going on with Pinotage. If you haven't visited that grape in a while, there's a lot of new stuff going on. And then there's always the Pinotage Association website that Val pointed out to me. That's cool.
Yeah, you can follow them on Twitter at Pinotage, Pinotageesa, capital S is in Sierra, A is in Alpha. And then, Steph, Pinotage Day.
Yes, that was started, 2014. So that's been going on a few years now and is the second Saturday in October. So that's kind of cool.
So expect this to be tweeted out again on the 2nd of October. And Steph, since you mentioned Kanankop, I found this message. I took a picture hanging above the winery door. And I think this would be a good place to end the Pinotage Grape Gab today. And it says, Pinotage is the juice extracted from women's tongues and lions' hearts. After having a sufficient quantity, one can talk forever and fight the devil.
Oh, my word.
And that's what's going on this podcast.
That is so perfect. That is so perfect. And then you have the picture. Look at that. That is so awesome. And as you can expect, we do have some resources for y'all and some linky links. So check that out. And I think we're going to move along onto some shout outs. It's more like a Wino Radar shout out because Val's been doing some traveling in Santa Rosa.
Yeah, I did return to the scene of the Wine Bloggers Conference crime of 2017 when we were out there, when I first met up with Jeff Solomon from We Like Drinking and a bunch of other people who will either be on this podcast, have been on this podcast, and have made some friends out there. So it was really cool to see Bonnie and Clark again from Betty Ann Vineyard in the Russian River Valley and also from episode 160 of this show. But, while we were out there for a family event, we took some time to see friends and visit some wineries on either end of the weekend. So there are too many shout outs to list, but we have to say our time with Bob Mueller was so special. And the winemaker's name is Bob Mueller, and he is from the Mueller Winery. And he scheduled a private tasting with us. Steph, you'd love these glasses.
Oh, what was special about the glasses?
They make Zalto look clunky.
Whoa, no way.
I got some pictures. I can't remember I wrote down something glass. I'll have to tell you what it is later. I can't read my own handwriting because I was just so into his wines, and I have a case of them coming. So the doorbell might ring in the middle of this podcast, but thank you, Bob Mueller and his wife, Lori, for getting those wines out to us, and we joined your wine club, and we can't wait for the first shipment in March. He spent quite a bit of time with us talking clones and winemaking and all that fun cork dorkery stuff, and we highly, highly recommend giving them a visit and scheduling an appointment when you're there.
What kind of wine did you get shipped? Pinots or?
Pinot, Chardonnay, and some of their old vines in, and I got you a bottle too. So I can't wait for you to have it.
Yeah!
And we were also able to visit La Crema our last day. It was our last winery, and they were like 30 minutes out from closing out the tasting room, but she poured some of their gorgeous high-end wines. And I never knew La Crema had such beautiful wines in the higher-end price range. But Jana sat with us, and we brought some of those home. Carl, he led us into Iron Horse. Now, the main road to the winery was flooded, so we were driving through the muck and went around to the other side to find out you had to call for an appointment, and we didn't do that, but he let us come up anyway through our broken cell phone connection. He let us belly up to the bar and taste all their sparkling wines, and so I've got some of their sparkling being delivered this afternoon too.
That's great.
It was really exciting learning about all these great causes that Iron Horse supports, and for the chat with Steve and Chris, who were recently married, and they were wine lovers next to us. And it was at the end of a cold, crappy, rainy day. I got to give a special shout out to the Noble Folk Ice Cream and Pie Bar. I said ice cream and pie bar. Thank you, Jesse and Wesley, because a pie bar.
I think you're excited about that.
Come on.
Yeah, that's right. Wow.
A pie bar.
Tell us about the pie bar. What kind of pie did you have?
Oh, we had some kind of, they were dehydrated strawberry mud pie And it was too cold for ice cream, but they had all these like homemade ice creams too. And they've got different locations. But I thought, how cool. We had just visited Russian River Brewery and tasted a bunch of their great beers and had lunch there. And then I was like, we're saving room for the pie bar. And we rolled in again right before they closed on the way back to the hotel. And I'm just like, tell me how a pie bar works. And it'd only been open a couple months, But yeah, they have like different pies.
How did you hear about it?
We walked past it.
Oh, okay.
Walk past it in downtown Santa Rosa. And I'm going to tell you what, they've got some cool places to eat there, cool places to drink. It is a great little town. So, yeah, thank you for all the hospitality. And it was great seeing everybody, even under the family circumstances we were there. And, yeah, but we're raising our glasses to, all the good and the bad that happens in life. And, you got to fill your glasses, man. So
That's
one more
right.
shout out, Steph.
Shout out to WTSO, our show sponsor. And Wine Still Sold Out is wine at the best price online, one at a time. You got it till sold out. And they have free shipping options and 100% satisfaction guarantee.
Yes, go to your listener page, your very own listener page at weeklytasting.com/W25 to sign up and get started. Or just go to our webpage and click on the links. You see those grapes there. We're going to send out some Patreon love for episode 199, Steph.
Yes, Patreon love to Robin from Girls Gone Grape. She is our Reserva Super... Blah, 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 blah.
Have another cocktail.
Oh my gosh, more whiskey. Reserva Superiore supporter. And we thank you so much, Robin. And Auntie in Georgia, he is our Reserva supporter. Our Tenacious Tasters, Jeff E. from the We Like Drinking podcast, Sebastian of Sassy Italy Tours, David and Lisa in Illinois, Anne Marie in Virginia, Lynn of Savor the Harvest blog, and Sharon in Florida.
And our It's Not 5 o'clock and We Don't Care listeners, Michelle in Nevada, Ashley and Sarah in North Carolina. I'm reading from the bottom up just to shake things up here.
Hey.
No particular order. Sean in Ohio, Kathy in Tennessee, Stephen Renee in Illinois, Chris, Janet, and Diane in Colorado, Georgia. There's Kathy. In Pennsylvania, we have Mary Lou. And we have to, did we send a thank you to Mary Lou for sending us some fun stuff to try?
I did. I just sent it from a regular thank you card. I didn't send her a Wine to 5 one.
No, that's fine. Well, thank you to Mary Lou, and we'll have to tell you what that is on another episode or in the future. In Canada, thank you, Chantel in Ontario, Kristen in Texas, John and Andrew, both in California, and Clay in Arizona, and Meg in South Dakota.
And our Tastemaker listeners, David in Scotland, Carol in Kentucky, Karen in California, Chip and Katie in Pennsylvania. Whoa. This is getting bad. Serena in New York, Annie in Colorado, and Danielle.
Thank you guys for being patrons. We totally appreciate you supporting the work we do here at Wine to Five.
And now we actually have our January Patreon drawing for 2019. And the winner is going to get a surprise gift. So it's to be determined.
All right.
It's time to get the randomizer out.
Good swag. And I'm going to click randomize.
Who's the winner, Val? 175. 175.
Right. Orange, 175. And that winner is Kristen L.
Cool, Kristen. Congratulations.
Is that Kristen in Texas?
I think it is.
Kristen in Texas. Congratulations, Kristen. We'll be reaching out to you on your prize. And between episodes, you can find goodies on our website, wine5.com, or you can find us in the social spaces at wine, TWOFIVE, Wine to Five. And until next week, everybody, cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Wine to Five podcast. Be sure to check us out at Facebook/Wine TWO5 and tune in next week for more fun and useful sip tips.